You're watching Face to Face, live from the CSL studio. Your hosts, Nesta, Cann.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Face to Face. Yours truly, Nesta Cann. And today we have a special guest in the studio who goes by the name of J-Rob. What's going on, baby?
Hey, Nesta. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Good.
All right. What you been up to? What's new?
Well, I'm here because I want to speak about unionization. I am a Delta ramp worker, and I am part of a group of nationwide employees that are trying to bring a union to the ramp at Delta.
Wow. Okay. Nice. So tell us more about the NLRA.
Yeah. So that's the National Labor Relations Act, and most employees fall under that. That's
Right.
That control. So if you have a problem with work and you want to sue your employer, that's the act that governs labor relations in the workplace. The difference is with airline and railroad workers, they're under what's called the Railway Labor Act. It's completely different. The Railway Labor Act was written about, I'd say, 80 years ago, give or take. And it was written when there were no airlines. So it's a very old act. They sort of grandfathered airlines in as they came, but it's because railroads and airlines deal with interstate commerce. So say you want to form a union at Walmart or Target or Amazon, and you want to do it you would do it in your local place of work. You know, it would have nothing to do with any of the other Walmarts or any other stores that you work for. You would just organize in your place. But with airlines and railroads, because they're interconnected from state to state, you have to organize the entire system. So I can't just organize people at JFK and we get a union, and it doesn't work like that. So it makes it a lot harder to organize an airline and railroad, because you have people with, they may be treating the people in one station good, but may be having some abuses in another place. So it's hard to get everybody on the same page at the same time. That's one of the challenges. Another challenge is just that you have to have 50% of the workforce under the Railway Labor Act. You have to have 50% of the workforce sign authorization cards. If you work for Coca-Cola or Walmart or Target, you only have to get 35% of the people in your store.
Yeah.
So that creates another challenge. We have to get 50% of the people in the entire nation. So getting everybody on the same page certainly is a challenge.
Getting 50% of people in your station, or that's just
No. No, 50% of people in the country.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that it makes it and the cards are only good for a year. So when you sign a card saying that you want to have a union, every station has to sign during that same 12-month period, or else the cards start becoming invalid after 12 months. So it creates a challenge getting people, specifically at Delta. We have 43 stations where ramp workers work. So getting all 43 stations on the same page at the same time during the same 12-month period has been a challenge. Sometimes we get, we'll get well over 50% in some stations, but below 50, far below in other stations. And then by the time we get the other stations up to par, the other cards in the station where we were doing well start expiring. So that's a challenge we have to keep chasing our tail, but we're getting there.
Do you see? Have you seen any progression for the last couple of years?
Specifically, actually, in the last year, we've had a really, really tremendous increase of people signing cards. A lot of it has to do with the economy, and things change. Things change at work. Sometimes reduction of benefits. They will give raises from time to time, but they'll take something else away. And people, I think that the influx of non-benefited workers has really, when the company starts hiring people with with no benefits and low pay, they start getting frustrated after a while because they can't move up to full-time, or the full-time opportunities aren't as available as they would like.
Right. Why do you think employees are scared to talk about certain topics at their workplace?
Well, it has to do with your fear is our biggest challenge. I think it's first of all, it's a lack of education and information. People don't know their rights in the workplace. And plus you're going against what your employer provides you your money, and the employer definitely does not want to have to negotiate with you. They want to have total control.
Right.
And so employee already knows that the employer is not favorable to a union. So it puts the employee at a disadvantage where if they speak up, they feel like they're going against the company. They're going against the person, the entity that provides them their job. But those of us who want a union, we're not against the company. We're not anti-company. I look at myself as my family, as my investors, and I have to make business decisions based on pleasing my investors, and that's my wife and kids. And so I would want to negotiate, be in a position where I can negotiate better terms for my employment. That doesn't mean I'm against my employer. I just want better terms for me.
Right. What would you say is one of the biggest perks of having a union?
I would say dignity, fairness, and respect. A lot of people put money, but I don't think money is the most important thing. The ability to have a say and a voice in the workplace, I think that's the most important. If you've never had that or never experienced it, it's having come from a union airline. I started at Northwest Airlines. And so I took having a union for granted. It wasn't until Northwest merged with Delta and people started telling me, oh, well, if we merge with Delta and they're able to get the union out, you're going to lose your pension. You're going to lose, with the union, I had 5 weeks vacation at 18 years. I'm at 25 years now, and I still only have 4 weeks.
Right.
Now, that's without a union. So it's the people that had a union lost a lot, but the people that never had a union, they were told that, oh, you're going to have to pay union dues, and so they didn't lose that much. Everything stays the same, and the union was painted as an unknown to them. So fear is the company is always going to plant fear and uncertainty in you. They'll spin something like, you start with a blank slate, but that's not really how it works. You start where the rest of the industry is. So we're in an industry where almost all the American airlines are unionized, except for Delta and JetBlue. JetBlue's pilots and flight attendants are unionized, but their ground staff is not. Same thing with Delta. Delta's flight attendants are not unionized either. Only the pilots, dispatchers, and the Canadian workers. All the Canadian workers for Delta are unionized too. So again, I think that the biggest thing is fear. They won't come out and tell you that they're gonna fire you, but people are afraid to speak up because they make it seem like you're going against your employer when you're not really doing that. You're speaking up for your rights. But I think education is the most important thing.
Now, people often say they don't like unions because they don't want to pay union dues. They're afraid to pay expensive union dues, and when you need the union, they're not really there for you. What do you think about that? What do you have to say about that?
First of all, union dues, there was a study in Illinois that union dues, for every dollar you pay in union dues, you get $6 in return. My experience is that, for instance, the union I was in, the IAM at Northwest, I had a pension. They arranged for me because we lost the union about 10 years ago, and I I'm 58 now.
Okay.
I've been at the company almost 25 years. So they made an arrangement that I can start collecting, since we don't have the union anymore, that I can start collecting my pension now. So even though I'm still working, I'm collecting my pension.
Right.
During the most of my career, union dues was $50 $50 a month. Excuse me. So the pension, it's not much. I was only, once the union took over the pension, I was only in it for 4.5 years.
Okay.
But I'm collecting a check for $99 a month.
Right.
And plus I had all the benefits of having a union. I had more vacation. So bottom line is that having a union is, I'm paying all the money that I paid for union dues, I'm getting back right now. And I'm not even retired. I'm still collecting my pension. I still have a Northwest pension that I will get when I'm retired. But thankfully, the union made arrangements for me to be able to collect my pension now. So I think the money that you pay in union dues is money well spent.
Money well spent, and you get it back in the long run anyway.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Another thing people were saying too is strikes. If a union goes on strike, you'll be out of work. And then, people have mouths to feed, bills to pay, and that kind of thing. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, that's a great question, and I really want to clear things up. First of all, like I said, I worked on the ramp for 25 years, never had a strike. Strikes are almost impossible in this industry because of the Railway Labor Act.
Okay.
It's written to avoid strike because a strike would halt interstate commerce. Again, going back to the Walmart, if you have a strike in Walmart, that's not going to hurt the entire country. But if you shut down an airline, that's going to have a detrimental effect to the economy of the entire country. So there are stipulations written into the Railway Labor Act meant to specifically avoid strikes. The government would step in and negotiate. There's virtually no strikes in this industry because of the impact that it would have on the economy. But what happens if there is a strike, the workers have to vote. I believe I don't know if it's 60% or 66%. I'll have to double check, but more than at least 60% of the workers have to vote to go on strike, first of all. And then you go on strike, and then they go back to the negotiation table and say, well, the workers are ready to go on strike. Let's negotiate further. And then if they can't reach an agreement, they'll go on strike. But before that happens, the government will step in and try to negotiate. So, like I said, 25 years in the business, I've never had a strike. So it's something the company uses to put fear in your heart, but it's not going to happen.
Also, basically, every job is different. Every union is different, and every situation is different.
Yes,
right.
Especially when airlines and railroads. Yeah. It's more likely to have a strike at a Coca-Cola plant, but
it's like more like retail and things.
Like but stuff, airline, it's too impactful to the country's economy to allow airlines to go on strike. So the government makes every effort to negotiate something before that happens. So it's really just there to scare you. It's not you're not going to go on strike.
And they also said about the union is they don't really discipline incompetent workers, such as let's say police officers, police brutality. They'll just let them go. They won't really discipline police who actually are caught in certain acts and stuff like that. I just use that situation.
Sure.
They just dismiss them. What do you have to say about that in terms of unions not really disciplining their incompetent workers?
Well, the union is there to make sure that you get treated fairly. Right. So no matter what you did at work, if you did something that causes the company to want to fire you, the union is going to make sure that the company just goes through the proper steps. If you don't deserve to be there, they say, it's if your work is outside your attendance is outside what's allowable, and you continue surpassing that after numerous warnings, then there's really nothing the union can do for you. It's pretty much cut and dry, but they were going to make sure that they're not there to protect, I guess you're talking about like lazy workers or workers that don't carry their own weight. They're not really, the union's not there to protect them from that. That's on you. But the union is there to make sure that if you are terminated, the company that you go through it's for a just cause, and they go through all the procedural steps and just don't, hey, I don't like you, or you talk back to me, so I'm going to fire you or something like that. The steps have to be.
Oh, so they bring you in. They go through an investigation, like hear both sides of the story. Okay,
right. And there's someone that sits in the office with you. Now with no union, there may be a lawyer, somebody from HR, a management person. They may have 6 people in the room, and with no union, it's just you. Especially with someone that doesn't know their rights. That's can be very intimidating. But with the union, at least you have somebody in the room with you to advise you of what's going on.
Right. Do most unions provide a pension or a 401k, or either? Every union is different.
401k is company provided.
Okay.
In the airline and railroad industry, most people still have pensions. For most other industries, pensions are not that popular anymore, but our industry is still heavily pensioned. So I would, like, for instance, United has a good pension. American has, they're negotiating their pension now. I don't know where they are.
Okay.
Most railroad workers have pensions. So this industry still has a lot of people with pensions. I look at it as, certainly we have the ability, the union that we're trying for negotiated a good pension at United, so I don't see any reason why they couldn't negotiate a good one for us at Delta.
Right. So we talk about profit sharing. So you rather pension than instead of profit sharing. Now, a lot of the young workers love the profit sharing, but a lot of the older workers are trying to let the younger workers know, listen, the profit sharing is good now, but you should have a pension, because when you get my age, you're going to need something to hold you down. What do you have to say about things like that?
I fall into the category of the older worker, and so I know the value. Like I said, I'm already collecting my part of my pension.
Right.
So I know the value of it. The company tries to spin that it's like an either or. If you get the union, you're going to have to give up the profit sharing. That's not the case. What happens is we're going to negotiate it, but the pilots at Delta have a union. They didn't give up any of their profit sharing. So the way I look at it, it's not a choice of, if I get a union, I'm going to have to give up profit sharing. That's not the case. They spend what profit sharing is. It's a nice check once a year. A pension is a nice check every month. So even if I'm not going to even say that you're going to have to, it's an either or, because I don't see any reason why we would have to give up profit sharing. We're the most profitable airline, and our performance is above and beyond our competition. So I don't see, just like a baseball pitcher, if they're bringing more people into the crowd, into the stands, and they're also pitching shutouts every day. Yeah. When it's time to negotiate their contract, there's no reason they're not going to get the best contract in the industry. That's why I feel we're pitching shutouts, and we're packing in more people than the other airlines. So why can't we negotiate the best contract in the industry?
So you're basically putting fear in people, letting them know if the union comes, you could possibly lose this great money every Valentine's Day.
It's they plant uncertainty. That's what it is. They plant you don't know. Never having a union, and then they'll just plant seeds of doubt. Well, this not that it's true, but the problem is there's no penalty for them misleading you. There's no penalty for a company to mislead you. There's not even a penalty, unfortunately, for them to discriminate against people who want a union. The only penalty, if they do happen to terminate somebody that's very pro-union, the only penalty is that they have to. If it's an illegal termination, they have to rehire the person and pay them back salary. But that's no real penalty for a real company. They give you a job back and pay you the money they would have paid you anyway. So that's no deterrent to them. It's not like they get fined or any jail time. So it's all they have to do is give you the money they would have gave you anyway. Yeah. So that's why they're able to put fear into people.
Let's talk about seniority, right? Because a lot of people say with the union now. That they might have people at the job that have more seniority, but there's a person who has less seniority, but might be more better fit and skilled than the person who has more seniority. So now, if there's a layoff, the person with less seniority gets cut, but that person may have the skills or be more skillful than the person with more seniority. What do you have to say about that?
It comes down to, there's pros and cons of both sides, but it comes down to seniority as a way to eliminate favoritism.
Okay.
If it only goes by seniority, it can't be like, okay, well, I like this guy more, or this guy's married to my cousin, or this guy brings me coffee every day. So it eliminates that part, and that it went by. The rules don't. When it goes by seniority, the rules don't change for anybody.
Right.
Some people maybe say that's good because I'm like, I'm a better worker than that guy. But the other people like me say, oh well, maybe he sucks up to the boss. That's why he got to keep his job. So it eliminates that.
Okay. Because a lot of people, say, oh, well, these senior guys, man, and once they get a certain age, they stop working. And I'm the younger guy. I'm here, busting my tail, and I'm doing the work. So the company should keep a guy like me that's going to keep the company going. I'm younger. I'm stronger. These guys older guys are set in their ways. They, you get a little age, you get a little slower. You can't do as much as the younger, male or female can do. So a lot of people with less seniority feel that way. Like, once the senior guys get older, they do less, but they get more of, the perks than us, and we're over here busting our tails.
Gotcha.
Less,
like I said, it just comes down to the fact that seniority is pretty much, you can't play around with that. So
can't play around, right.
Yeah, so it's pretty much, the rules going in, everything. I was a junior once, and I had to, you have
to work your way up.
Yeah, I had to work,
pay your dues.
Yeah, I paid my dues. So I think now that I'm a senior person, I should not. I changed the rules.
Right.
Like, I hear some people talk about, they should, do travel benefits by first come first serve.
They have some people who I think some airlines do it like that.
Yeah,
right?
American does.
What do you
like
think?
that.
What do you think about that?
Well, again, for me, having there was a lot of times where when I was 2-3 years and I saw people running past me getting on the plane, and I had to sit and wait, or sometimes I couldn't get on. So I paid my dues, and
right.
So I'm biased that way. That now that I'm senior, of course, I want seniority to play a factor.
Yeah, because some people figure I've been here all day at the airport, and then this person just strolling along, coming late with his family, and then all of a sudden he gets on before me. But
yeah, I get it.
But you have to let that person know there's gonna become a time where you're gonna be a senior person,
exactly.
and you're gonna feel like
Exactly, man. I had to pay my dues. Yeah, what goes around comes around.
All right, so I'm gonna show you a little clip here.
Okay.
And afterwards, you're gonna tell me what you think about it. It's for union and against union. All right. So listen to these clips.
Through unions, our country has achieved some of its greatest social changes, economic changes, and labor changes. Unions got you a weekend.
Unions, they just end up costing businesses too much money, and then they just can't sustain themselves. And even though the workers are getting a lot of benefits, those benefits really aren't helping out those workers if that business ceases to exist.
I am a registered nurse in California, and my hospital is a part of a union. It's great, especially for patient to nurse staffing ratios. In the hospital, it's like a safety concern. I've been a traveling nurse. I worked in Texas where they don't have unions, and patient to staffing ratios are really unsafe.
I would never work for a union because unions can very much be political. I don't agree with their methodology of how they prioritize employees, and I'm not saying all unions function this way, but more often
I do tend to disagree with them sometimes, specifically when it comes to individuals taking advantage of the union for their own gain or own profit, specifically through the idea of seniority or something like that.
I'm really not a big fan of unions. I've had union workers come in who are more qualified to do a job that they can't do because they don't have the right seniority. Meanwhile, the older generation who are doing it, who really shouldn't be doing anymore, are still doing that job, and it creates a safety hazard risk and everything like that.
There is the issue of seniority, where there would be someone who's way more qualified for a position, or who wants a position but can't get it because they have not been a part of the company for long enough.
What do I think of right to work? Complete bullshit. What it actually means is the company's right to your work. It's a protection and tool for the employer, not the employee. It's meant to isolate the employee employees so that they don't have as much power.
While some organizations require you to be part of a union, some individuals might not want to be. So right to work gives that individual freedom from there. And I kind of in agreement with it. So basically the idea is you're choosing if your salary or a portion of your salary goes to union fees. But that also brings up a big problem with the idea of free riders or individuals who take advantage of the system.
So I work in the Utah film industry, and I do get to work a lot with people from the LA film industry. And one of the biggest things that I will say about unions, as far as this being a right to work state and a lot of people in LA being in unions, is the protections that they're afforded under those unions.
Unions are needed. If employers, big companies, industries actually treated workers right, we wouldn't need unions, now would we?
I honestly don't know much about unions. All I know is when I moved here, I was offered to join one, and I couldn't afford to. It was insanely expensive to join a union in Japan.
My parents benefited from the union. They worked for the United States Postal Service, and they always made sure the wages were correct, things like that, or something came up and benefits are changing, they'd always jump in and be like, hey, no, we're not doing that, and so it helped them greatly. But I know my mom used to complain about the union as well, because there's always some things that need to be improved.
When I was talking about political engagement, I think right to work kind of protects that for the employees, but to me, I see right to work as also being a benefit towards specific political parties, because it takes away that overall endorsement from an organization.
My only advice when it comes to unions, or just about anybody, is always beware when someone tells you they're doing something for your own good and the law demands you let them do it.
With businesses that have unions, is that the unions end up being the downfall for those businesses. Would you rather have a job for a short period of time with a lot of benefits, or a job that has substantially less benefits but you can stay with that job for a long time? If the business is going to fail, then all the benefits you have are kind of pointless.
I think that's where unions really come in to play, is they keep people accountable. They keep producers and directors and everybody on a set accountable for what is happening.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I get the idea.
Yeah. So there's some people for it and for against. So what do you?
Well, I'm going to address the gentleman that was talking about how union jeopardizes your job. Certainly in our industry, we work for a $6 billion company.
Right.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Pilots have unions, Canadian workers have unions, the dispatchers, and I believe the meteorologists have a union.
Yeah.
Having to pay union salaries is not going to put our company out of business.
Right.
I think maybe if you work for a small paint company, they may. It's a different situation, but a union's job is to get the workers the best deal that they can. They're not there to drive you the prices so far out of line that you can't operate your business. That would be shooting yourself in the foot. There was a time when the airline industry, I've been in industry for a long time. There was a time when our airline was not doing well, and the company came back to us and came to the union, said, look, we're going to have to make some cuts. And the union negotiated some salary cuts that allowed the airline to keep flying. So the union will work with the company,
right?
If the company is in trouble. But there were stipulations that all the airlines were in bad shape in the late in the 1999 to the early 2000s. But what happened, having a union when the Northwest, when we went out or when we were having trouble, and when we filed for bankruptcy, the union had it in the contract that when they came out of bankruptcy, we would get lump sum money back. So a lot of people got $10,000 back when we came out of bankruptcy. But when Delta went into bankruptcy, there was no stipulation to recoup that money from the workers. There was nothing in writing, so they just came out of bankruptcy, and that was it. I mean, they gave people some stock, but Northwest people, because we had it in a contract, what happens if the company is doing bad, we were able to get some of that money back.
Right.
As far as the people that mentioned right to work, what right to work does, I can sort of understand it. If you don't want to be a part of the union, right to work says, okay, I don't have to join the union in order to work at this job, and I can get that. The problem is that if the people that don't join the union still has to represent them, but they don't have to pay union dues. That's what happens in a right to work state. So basically, if enough people don't decide to opt out of the union, it's going to starve the union of money, and the union's not going to be able to defend you or represent you. If everybody decides, okay, well, I'm not going to pay dues, but I'm still going to benefit from what the union negotiates. Right. Sooner or later, just like what the gentleman said about running the company out of business, the union wants too much. Well, the same thing if enough people opt out of paying union dues, it's going to put the union out of business. So then who's going to represent you then? Right. So that's what happens in a right to work state. I wouldn't mind if you can opt out of union dues, but then you have to negotiate your own terms. Then I wouldn't have a problem with that. But the fact that right to work laws force the union to still represent people who choose not to pay union dues, I think that's unfair to the people that are in the union.
Okay. Any final thoughts, Jay, before we wrap it up?
Yeah. I just wanted to go over some of your rights.
Go ahead.
Your rights to work. To form a union, you have the right to organize a union, to negotiate your employer concerning your wages, hours, and other terms of your condition of employment. You have the right to form, join, or assist a union. These are all federally protected.
Right.
You have the right to bargain collectively through representatives of the employee's own choosing. You are allowed to take action with one or more co-workers to improve your working conditions among any other means by raising work-related complaints directly with your employer or a government agency and seeking help from a union. It's also illegal for your employer to fire, demote, or transfer you, or reduce your hours, or change your shift, or otherwise take adverse action against you, or threaten to take any of these actions because you join or support a union. It's legal for you to wear a pin supporting a union in your workplace. It is also illegal for your employer to spy on or videotape peaceful union activities, or threaten that you will lose your job or lose benefits if you support the union. So I just want to let people know that your rights to join a union and support one are federally protected. I urge people to do a little research. All you have to do is Google is your friend. Everybody got a smartphone on their phone. You know, you don't have to listen to me. Don't listen to the company. It only takes a few minutes to go on your phone and just Google union versus non-union, and you can get the answers for yourself.
Okay. Last but not least, how can people get in contact if they want to know more information? Any kind of social media, website,
so
Facebook, anything, Instagram?
So we have Facebook, Delta Workers Unite.
Okay.
Is our Facebook group. We also have an Instagram page, which is DAL Ramp Unite.
Right.
DAL Ramp Unite. So you can reach us there. Facebook page is where we have the most activity, but we would like more people to follow us on our Instagram. At DAL Ramp Unite.
All right, J. Rob, it's a pleasure having you on the show.
Nesta, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. This wraps up another episode of Face to Face. Yours truly, Nesta Cann. Take care and God bless.